Malphite being gone. We suspect that'll be the Maokai, but we've also got the likes of Corki we've seen, Jarvan we've also seen first pick, or even Kha'Zix again. But Xaxus is currently hovering the Maokai.
Malphite ban makes no sense, because Malphite is played into Aurelia. That's crazy by Gamers 2.
Yeah, and they do therefore force out that Maokai. So Maokai first pick then from in faculty, suspecting a Kassadin at some point through this now from Jwaow, because that's kind of all that's left.
Yeah.
But they obviously don't have to rush that through. They can go for a Corki first round pick for them. Doesn't surprise anyone if this gets locked in, or even the Lucian. But what do they do about jungler?
Kha'Zix would be the smartest option. Lee Sin not available. Ku just had a very questionable game on Jarvan. Put him onto something he knows. Kha'Zix he's comfortable with. Pair it with the Corki. Great mid-game spike. Ooh, they can go with it if they want.
They haven't. They've gone for a Jarvan. So Jarvan, Corki are the first two lock-ins for Gamers 2. But here's another option. Gamers 2, Jarvan top.
I wouldn't see it in this setup. I honestly feel like Gamers 2 are going to put Jwaow either on that Kassadin or something like a Lissandra or a Victor, something that can just kind of get through the laning phase very well against Maokai and then just have a lot of wave clear and a lot of push. And that actually would free up Ocelote to go on something like a Fizz or something like that in a wave clearless mid laner.
Now, talking about wave clear, in fact, they grabbed themselves Orianna after having banned it previously, and they've taken that Sona once again for their bottom lane.
Yes, indeed. Now, the Orianna pickup goes with SozPurefect's champion pool, but also removes it from Ocelote, which, of course, everybody knows. Ocelote plus Orianna, very synonymous. Pair it with the Jarvan as well would be a massive combination. So Faculty kind of had to pick that away at this stage. And the Sona doesn't tell too much. Sona is a champion that in the bottom lane you can comfortably pick. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gamers 2 pick up the Thresh again. That is what KaSing likes to play into Sona, and I feel like he will say he can do better this game than he did in the last.
The opening three here to me screamed team fights.
Yes, yes, very much
same
so.
as we saw from Faculty before. Very little wave clear, didn't care so much about sieging, just team fight comp. And this is very much what they've got again. We have heard rumors of this possible pick, though, coming from Gamers 2, and it is a Jax lock-in. That's what Jwow's going to go with, and Yuki is picking up that Janna for KaSing to take as support.
So if there's one player in EU Challenger that's going to pick Jax, it is going to be Jwaow. And, you know, that is one of his champions he always played, Jax and Kha'Zix in that top lane role a long, long time ago, back in the TCM days. That was very long time back. But, you know, that's going to give him great scaling. How will it do against Maokai in the lane? Because Jax's laning phase isn't amazing. He got nerfed a lot. Maokai is a bit more of a passive lane for Jax to be against, so maybe he'll just look to farm up for a while. Not too sure on the Jax picks. We'll have to see it work, but you talked about it. It has been rumored to be picked up.
We heard a couple of players dropping hints and suspecting and calling out even some specific players saying, if this happens, this player will play Jax. It wasn't actually Jwaow in that specific rumor, though, so he may have surprised a few different people. But Faculty's response is to grab themselves the Kha'Zix again and the Lucian.
Probably going to be something like a Xerath coming out here into Orianna. We're waiting on Ocelote's mid laner. When you look at this all the way down the line, there's not exactly a great matchup for against Orianna. Zed is available. It's a skill matchup and is actually quite a difficult one to do and would give them a fair amount of AD on their team. So that would be something Ocelote could play. We know he has experience on it recently, even though it isn't one of his quintessential champions. But it is an option nonetheless.
Xerath would, however, also give them far better control against sieges and with sieges again, because they are once more lacking wave clear.
There we go. That would make a lot of sense.
Yes, so, the sense is there. We do, of course, have our full list from Faculty, which even after those bottom two still screams team fights. You got that big tanky front line. You got the wombo combo, so to speak, of Orianna and Sona ultimates, and Kha'Zix there for resets with the help of Lucian. KaSing does finally lock in that Xerath, so that is going to be our mid laner then for Ocelote, and we do have a completed Gamers 2 line.
We do. Let's take a look down the line. So Janna in this situation has been picked up for the disengage because one of the problems that Xerath Corki are going to have is hard engage when you look at a Kha'Zix with the ball delivery system with Orianna and Malphite. So Janna there to disengage from that kind of fight. And then, honestly, Gamers 2 are going to look to skirmish a fair amount in the mid-game with Jwaow. Try and get some 2v1 picks between Jarvan and Jax just to get Jax fed a little bit because he does rely heavily on a lot of gold and a lot of kills to get into the late game.
So, our completed rosters are there. We are waiting, of course, for the last 20 seconds to tick down and the load screen to begin. You guys, of course, don't forget, @LOL Esports on Twitter and hashtag LCS expansion to get involved in the conversation and tell us your thoughts on the games and the players. I want to see Gamers 2 swing this one around. I want to see a third game in this best of 3 series. And Faculty, of course, are 1 game up at the moment after winning that first one fairly convincingly and quite easily, to be completely honest. So Gamers 2 have to make quite some substantial changes.
They do, but is that substantial change an old school play out of Jwaw's playbook? He's been forced onto a lot of champions this year that he has not liked. The Mundo Shyvana time for Jwaow was a particularly boring time for him. He loves playing aggressively, and Jax is a champion that he can do so on. Just needs the rest of his team to buy him a lot of time here. So I guess if they want to put their eggs in one basket right now, now would be Jwaw's time to shine.
I was going to say, he can dominate a Maokai if he's given a slight lead. Can Ku give him that lead he wants, or will Obvious be there to do something about it? So junglers are going to play a large interaction, I suspect, in how this top lane opens up and how the matchup works. But we are there and onto the Rift on your screens. Gamers 2 now as the red team in the top right-hand corner of Summoner's Rift this time over, and in Faculty as our blue team down in the bottom left, making their way out towards their jungle. Let's see where they open it up again. It'll just be warding and watching the entrances, but the question is, does Gamers 2 go for that deep warding in? Do they look to find out where Obvious is starting or keep track of him? Or, of course, do in Faculty do it?
That is a good question, because it gave Gamers 2 a lot of information in the early game, which, unfortunately, they couldn't end up using. So that didn't always go their best way, but taking a look up at the top lane items, it tells you Jwaw's game plan going into this. You'd expect perhaps him to pick up Doran's Blade just for extra damage in the lane and that little bit of sustain, but this is saying I need to farm for a long time. Let's pick up a flask, health potions, make sure I don't die for a while, and I should be okay.
Faculty are going for that red buff ward. There is a couple of members of the Gamers 2 around there to keep an eye on them, but ultimately they can't stop it happening. And we actually see a recall coming out from Ocelote here because he spent so much mana poking SozPurefect, and you can see SozPurefect's health bar doing no damage. And then, of course, trying to grab those and stop the warding.
I mean, SozPurefect took his shield. So all of the mana that Ocelote was using in that is just being completely used against that shield. So SozPurefect is fine to take shield here. It won't actually hinder him too much because he'll hit level 2 and have command attack for any time that Ocelote's going to want to trade here. So it's not too big a deal.
So, bottom lane, we do see Lucian Sona hiding in the bush. Not an uncommon tactic, but the question is, do they just turn and back away, as we've seen a few people do? Do they actually go for that damage advantage? As it is, they're revealing themselves. They were just looking to make sure there wasn't any lane swap shenanigans going on.
So, Lucian Sona, that is a heavy poke lane here, but they are against Corki and Janna. But you can see Gamers 2 have already lost control of this matchup, and that's because they haven't had the position to actually land any damage, and it's so easy for Mountain to land his Q.
Exactly the same as the last time round.
Yeah.
With the Thresh, they just turned and backed away and didn't even try and rush up to level 2.
And that's a big problem, because this bottom lane matchup is so reliant on getting that level 2 to begin with. And you can see that N Faculty have already got most of the way there on their experience bars. So Gamers 2 need to be a little bit careful here.
Next question is, now that Ku's had the tables turned on him, and he's had his his jungle warded up, does he also avoid the red buff and look for a different route around to check and make sure that ward is gone? Ward is actually already vanished, and Ocelote looking for a river ward to make sure that Ku can do this safely.
Yeah, that's pretty smart here by Ocelote, making sure they got a ward down, deters any potential invade from Obvious. It's a little bit later, potentially, if Obvious had already been in the jungle. There was a couple of seconds where they could have bypassed through, but it's, I guess, fortunate that Obvious is still on his lower side jungle.
Yeah, but obviously Gamers 2 can't be 100% sure on this, so they've got to be a little bit cautious. As it is, Obvious again actually used the same route there, even though he didn't see a ward placed on his red this time.
No, he hasn't seen anything on his red yet, and they haven't either seen Ku up in the top lane, who is already sneaking into that far bush for Gamers 2. This is going to be a difficult worked gank here because Jwaow needs to land the counter-strike in this engage, and it is going to be a difficult one because of how far back Xaxus is sitting here. So honestly, this is just wasted time for Ku. They need to get at least a summoner here for Ku to have a successful gank.
This is what you mentioned about Ku before. While he seems to have these unorthodox timings normally. If you've played against him a lot,
yeah,
they're very easy to read. This is the same timing he used in the last game. Just because he's on the other side of the map, he's ending in a different lane this time around.
And I would be happy to take that credit, but honestly, I think it comes with a lot more weight when you factor in that it was Freeze that was saying that, who played on NIP with Ku. And that is a big factor, is Ku has been on so many teams that a lot of these players have actually played against or with Ku so many times and know his playstyle very well.
So, regardless of whether Xaxus knew it was coming or not, he was pushed up under his turret, and there was no opening for Ku to make down there this time over.
And that's opening up a CS difference again on the junglers. Obvious knows his place at this point in the game is just to farm up, and Ku has spent a lot of time in the lanes, but bottom lane, look at the positioning.
Tornado comes out, and that's just about enough to force Gamers 2 back to the turret. But again, they are losing CS now, and a lot of damage onto Yuki, who has a massive CS disadvantage. And if he has to leave this lane now, it's only going to stretch out.
And the sustain is again on N Faculty's side. Take a look. No health potions have really been used in this matchup, and Sona is just healing everything that Gamers 2 are throwing at N Faculty.
Junglers eyeing up top again. KaSing in the bushes. Jarvan was in the tri-bush and is now turned to back away. Obvious, sneaking in as close as he can. He knows if he can get into that push, he'll have an opening in a minute. Jwaow does push. He has been very aggressive previously. Xaxus just sells him. Be patient. He'll come back out past it. The wave's going to push slightly. The question is, do they go on this wave or do they wait for the next one? Ku is miles away, but do they know this? See Jwaow heading forward once those range creeps. They're actually going to go in. He's got that counter-strike down, stuns them both, and is back under turret. Can't help but feel that could have been timed a bit better.
It could have been, but at the same time, N Faculty didn't actually take tower aggro. So although nothing happened really in that trade, N Faculty come out a little bit better than that could have been. So it was a little bit of wasted time there by Obvious, but he'd already farmed himself up a little lead. But over in that mid lane, speaking of farming, this is a Xerath Orianna matchup.
Yeah,
so
lots happening. Yeah.
No health potions really even used in this lane matchup. So it's just going to be like this until about, I was going to say until about that level 6 point, but neither has really gone aggressive yet either. But look for Ocelote to set up a gank with Ku. Get that stun from Xerath and try and punish SozPurefect for pushing in too much.
Yeah, especially if they see Kha'Zix up in the top lane like that again sometimes. Once they find out where it is he is, can use that opening. But we're going on bottom lane. Yuki immediately has to Valkyrie away. Doesn't get to return any damage. But Sedrion is actually lacking on the mana now, so these trades are going to have to slow down a little bit for N Faculty. And there's been a base on Gamers 2 now, so Sedrion has a slight item disadvantage.
There is a potential experience disadvantage, though, that Gamers 2 will face unless N Faculty back here. Sona is actually a little bit of the lane, a little bit of the wave up in experience, and that would give her her ultimate. And if you can flash Crescendo Janna before she even has Monsoon available, that would be a big factor. But it looks like they've actually foregone a lot of that experience by backing here for that item advantage.
Gamers 2 looking to do the same thing again they did before. They saw the recall from the bottom lane of N Faculty and immediately pinged onto Dragon. Corki can't go though, because Mountain is trying to freeze this lane up, but he shows up to make sure he breaks it and make sure it goes into turret. And they're trying to do a two-man Dragon with Jarvan and Janna.
Something that's giving them this freedom is the fact that Ocelote didn't choose to back straight away when he saw SozPurefect do it, and is actually shoving mid lane, so it's going to distract Orianna, make sure that nobody can come out and put a ward down. This is Gamers 2 showing good objective control.
Yeah, this is what they need to keep up through the rest of the game, keep up this decision-making and teamwork. And they grab themselves that Dragon, there we go. So they have a slight 400 gold lead as things sit. Still no turrets apiece on either side, and we are still waiting for that first blood. See a blue buff and even passed over to Orianna now as well. I suspect Ocelote will be grabbing his as he comes back out towards the mid lane, and they can continue to comfortably farm and farm and farm as they both have chalices and both have blue buffs. Bottom lane, now that we've seen Lucian base though, there's a big difference in items. BF sword up against 2 Dorans and a longsword. Sedrion actually using the culling here onto Yuki, doing a lot of damage. Yuki gonna have a hard time staying in lane with that. He's got the red health potion. He is gonna choose to base though.
Yeah, the question is, how much gold does he have on it? About 1,100, so he'll finish up that phage. Still a big item disadvantage for Gamers 2. But overall, Corki's going to get into this game a little bit faster than Lucian with that Trinity Force, especially that Dragon Gold will help get that difference back. But Top lane has been a farm fest right now, and we didn't expect anything else. Jwaow has picked a champion.
Chalice,
yeah. Not quite double chalice, but up in that top lane. Exactly. It's what we're expecting out of this Maokai Jax matchup. It's been a while since we've seen Jax, at least here in the European Challenger scene. And we said, if Jwaow, if there's one player that's going to bring it back, Jwaow is going to be the guy, because that is his synonymous champion. But it's going to be another 10 minutes before Jax really gets into this game. Needs that Trinity Force and Blade of the Ruined King really to get himself going.
So Jarvan's just grabbed himself double long swords on that base and now has a red buff. So maybe he's going to look for some kind of gank opening. But again, if he does, he's going to fall further behind from Obvious once more. There's still a slight advantage for Obvious and an item advantage. He's got himself that Elder Lizard completed. Jwaow now taking a bit of punishment from Xaxus, but the counter-strike won't land in time for Ku to get in and follow it up. And Xaxus, to be honest, was very lucky there, because that was a really weird timing. He hasn't twisted advance on it until Obvious was there before, and this time around, Ku was incredibly close.
Yeah, but saying that, Ku has backed away, and Obvious is up in this top lane. Jwow's been lulled into perhaps a false sense of security. This could be good.
Goes in. Now we see KaSing coming out of the bush. The counter-strike will stun them both up again, but Jwaow has to flash to get to Ku's help. Now Ku comes back in. They're all over level 6, of course, and Ku's going to be the focus from Obvious before he gets the turret, and actually has the flash to get there as well.
Great gank there out of Obvious. A bit of an obscure timing off the backside of Ku's gank, and they get double summoners from that. That is a big, big play in the top lane.
Yeah, they also had to be extra careful for Gamers 2 because Ocelote had just based too, so Orianna was roaming up there completely free to join in and help if she had so wished. So they had to back away. But Jwaow still can't leave this tower without risking losing it completely, and that also means Ku can't go and heal until he knows that Jwaow is safe.
Yes, indeed. That's a big problem for Jwaow in that top lane, but another big problem on the map bottom lane. Take a look at the health remaining on the turret for Gamers 2. Faculty have been pushing up so hard in that bottom lane, and it's got them a CS lead. It also has given them the advantage on tower health, but of course, remember, Gamers 2 took that dragon, so that is why Gamers 2 have that slight lead right now, even despite the CS differences on all of the lanes.
Yeah. Gamers 2 have actually given up on this bottom lane. There goes the tower. Once the minions have done all the damage they can, but Mountain looking to try and scare Yuki away, of course, make sure he doesn't come too close. Get Rocket CS. There we have it. First tower of the game from Faculty. Down in the bottom lane. Gives them the gold lead despite losing out on that first dragon. And they are very, very comfortable down as that pair. Lucian and Sona. Happy with how that lane has went. Middle lane, actually slight advantage now opening up for SozPurefect in the CS game. But ultimately the items are still very, very even, bar a boots difference for Orianna. Top lane again, junglers are waiting. Ku is up in that bush, but with 2 minutes on Dragon, and he has to know this because they snuck it out. He could give up that objective just by showing in the top lane.
And you know that Faculty are fine waiting this out for the next dragon. You know that their team composition is essentially all about team fights. They don't want to be drawn into these scrappy little fights in lane. So Xaxus, oh, he's caught.
He went forward for the CS. He's going to get stunned straight after the knockup. Will twist advance onto Jarvan and then flash towards Obvious. But that's enough to scare Gamers 2 away, especially as there were pings in the jungle for Janna and Xerath roams up. But here's something that I'm pretty sure Gamers 2 weren't expecting. Sedrion and Sona have come to join in.
Well, they know they've got a minute left on the timer, and they're already pressuring out Gamers 2 up in this top lane, so they maybe look to get a turret from this, but I'll be interested to see how Gamers 2 react to this, whether they look to secure the dragon area, or whether they choose to fight this, and that indeed is going to be the choice. So neither team could be around dragon if they don't head there fairly soon.
Yeah, they look happy to leave this second dragon to go for a while. I mean, we saw it in the last game while Gamers 2 snuck the first one away. Both teams were happy to wait long past the timer for the second one spawn, but do anything about it. And it does look like Faculty would much rather take this top turret. And in doing so, they are locking 3 members of Gamers 2 up as well. 4 now that Corki is coming to join them. So Gamers 2 can't do anything about that dragon, even if they so wished.
Yeah, that's a very interesting play out of both teams right now, to have this many people top lane when they know a dragon is coming. I guess once you see your enemy up there, then there's no harm in it. It's not like anyone can sneak a dragon this early on in the game, so just a little bit strange, a little bit different from what we'd normally see. But
well, I think for that reason, because it's that little bit different, normally it would get a quick free tower out of it. But for some weird reason, out of the ordinary, Ku was also there to begin with. And, well, that allowed them to defend that tower. But now we do see Gamers 2 making a beeline for Dragon.
We also see that 124 CS on Lucian to 100 on Corki, so that gap widened with all of that top lane, and that forced Corki to kind of walk it up there. And you can see Yuki in the bottom lane is still trying to get himself some farm.
Slight switch up in Lucian's build too. He went for that Brutalizer second rather than going for any more parts of his Infinity Edge, looking for that quick spike of damage instead.
So I feel like Sedrion has kind of assessed that this next couple of minutes is going to be quite pivotal, that they want that extra spike in damage, that extra cooldown reduction on Lucian, because once they pair that with Kha'Zix and Orianna, along with the damage reduction, Faculty are just going to have a stronger fight time right now because there's no Trinity Force on Corki yet. So Lucian just wants as much damage up front as he possibly can. Yeah,
we do see Maokai forced to go up top to stop Jwaow taking that tower down, as the rest of Gamers 2 are defending this middle lane turret from the Faculty pressure again. Obvious catches a quick knock-up from Janna's Tornado as he tries to kill off some wards, but we'll get the ward anyway. And now Ku's looking for that engage, but again, takes more damage than he deals out for his trouble. Jwaow and Xaxus back to comfortably trading forwards and backwards, getting those creeps in the top lane. And while 3 members of Faculty is all it's taking to defend this middle lane, we get Lucian free pushing the bottom lane.
Ku has to be a little bit more careful this game because his flash has only just come back available. And he went aggressive there in a situation where he could have been heavily outnumbered. So not too sure what Ku's up to. Needs to settle himself, I feel.
Neither do I have an idea with his items. I mean, he got Sightstone second to his Elder Lizard last time around, but now he hasn't decided to finish either of them. Not the Elder Lizard or the Sightstone. And Gamers 2 caught slacking. Give up the second dragon for free to Faculty, but we do see their assault coming out. Captain Obvious twice, but not enough to kill him off.
I thought you called him Captain Obvious then.
I meant to say catching Obvious. I might have said Captain.
You may very well have. Anyway.
Gamers 2, in fact, speaking of catching, are looking to grab Faculty. We can't quite make the opening. Now Ku, again, going a bit far on his own. He's lucky they didn't have the wards to spot him out there because they're coming to try and take down this middle turret. Ku is going to go around behind it, but there's no minions left, and they're not willing to dive.
They just spotted Xaxus recalling as well, so they know that's not going to be a potential difficulty in this siege. Of course, Xaxus still has his teleport, but Jwaow does as well. You can see Faculty are still holding on to this lead fairly well now. That dragon gave them a nice spike in gold. Let's take a quick look at how much gold, in fact, they are sitting on. 1,600 on Lucian, so he's going to head back and add to his item total. Yeah, picks up a pickaxe. Yeah. Ooh, picking up the cooldown boots as well. That's something we haven't seen in a little while too.
Well, they know they're going to need to wave clear a fair bit, especially up against the Xerath this time around, so getting that extra Q spam onto creeps and the culling cooldown would be very, very nice.
Of course, because remember, recent changes to Lucian added cooldown to his later levels, and Jwaow on the other side on a Jax screams late game.
And just to keep getting away from Jwaow on the Jax, you're going to want more and more Jaxes.
Top lane.
The top lane, they're going in onto Jwaow again, but now Jarvan is here, and that's enough for Jwaow to get aggressive back onto Xaxus, but is enough for the kill. Jwaow can't get inside Jarvan's ultimate, and it's finally a first blood as Maokai falls, but Obvious looking for resets, doesn't get them, as we do see Jax killing him at the same time he falls.
But Jwaow will take that double kill onto Jax, is going to be exactly what they want in this game. They need to get more on Jwaow, and we talked about it around this time is when we'll see Jwaow get his ball rolling in this game, and that is exactly how to do it. Bilgewater Cutlass picked up already on the way to that Blade of the Ruined King.
I mean, the spike there that we had with the Trinity Force helped with that double kill, and now that he's this close to his second item as well, puts Gamers 2 in a very, very comfortable position. SozPurefect looking to kill off that middle turret, but doesn't quite have the support or the damage he needs to do it. He is already very, very low. Lucian back down in the bottom lane with just Corki there to help him out and push those waves in for him. He's just going to comfortably farm those creeps. But again, credit to Corki, the gold count and the CS difference rather between these two AD carries has shrunk quite dramatically in recent minutes.
So over on that top laner as well, this time for Faculty, Xaxus is building himself towards a Frozen Heart, and that is a great item against a Jax because Jax needs attack speed to do damage. He's a duelist. That is why his damage spike is not at Trinity Force like you'd expect. He gets a very small spike, but the big Jax spike is at Trinity Force Blade of the Ruin King with that attack speed item. Anything you can do to slow that down is going to go a long way to reducing Gamers 2's ability to get Jwaow into this game.
So Xaxus now with Obvious looking to roam down and get a little bit of control around Baron and the Gamers 2 jungle. You do find a pink ward to begin with. See what else they go with afterwards. Now in Faculty and Gamers 2 are both up to their full section of sweepers and clairvoyance trinkets. And not comfortable controlling this vision. This middle tower is still not alive. We do see the ult coming out from Xerath onto Mountain. Again, not quite enough to pick up any kills, but in Faculty are very low and did have to blow a summoner heal. And they might have trouble defending this middle tower now.
Yeah, and that's the power of this Xerath pick. It completely defended almost single-handedly and chipped down Mountain being very low. But they have Sona, they have the sustain. It's a question of avoiding the poke now.
Just waiting. They need minion waves.
Yes.
Nothing much they can do until those arrive. But here comes the first one for in Faculty this time around. And it, with the help of a sapling, managed to chase Gamers 2 quite a way back down the lane. But Ocelote Xerath does clear them out very, very fast. Now it's on Orianna and Lucian to try and kill these off as fast as possible before Gamers 2 can reach the tower. And they do just that. So a bit of a stalemate here now between both of these teams, as neither wants to be that guy that gets caught out and throws away what's going to be some pivotal objectives, especially with Dragon coming up in a minute and a half. The gold count is back to within 700 in favor of in Faculty, which to be honest hasn't really been too much either way recently in this game. Gold's staying very, very level despite the double kill there onto Jax.
But what is next for Gamers 2? How do they push this through? Because they are kind of struggling a little bit here in pushing in mid. So, Gamers 2 this time are going to get the ball rolling in bottom.
KaSing, he did come down there to help Lucian out, but Jax just leaps on him, having already pushed Lucian away. KaSing knows he cannot defend this tower on his own. And Jwaow, we can pick up turret number 2 of the game for Gamers 2. It's stalking around the jungle here as well to try and help grab a kill on anyone that strays a little bit too far out of position. Could be KaSing. They do force him to leap away, but the rest of Faculty are comfortably defending that middle lane while Gamers 2 ward up their jungle for this 30 seconds until the next dragon.
Who's been going in aggressively so much, I was just jumping at the bite there. Just hoping that he went in there, just trying to get in, but it's not the case. Gamers 2 playing this a little bit more cautiously. They know they need to buy Jwaow a little more time in this game, but when Jax goes split push mode, there's very few champions in the game that can actually fight against him. And that is what Gamers 2 want to use to their advantage as they go through this game.
Lucian actually dashing forward as they go into Jarvan because they brought everyone down from middle. But they couldn't quite catch him before he could EQ over the wall to safety. And they may have just given up that middle turret because of it. We do see them having to rotate back there quickly, but they have pulled it off this time around.
Dragon is live, and we're within 100 gold of each other. There goes Obvious, but
jumped straight into a stun.
Yeah, was looking for the ball delivery system. Couldn't quite find the mark on it, though, because Xerath was there.
Does take a little bit of damage as he clears out these wards, but Gamers 2 now are very, very split for this coming fight. Looking to kill off these pink wards, but they need to do it with some range. And managed to do it, and again, Gamers 2 just falling further and further back. The gold count is getting more and more even. It is open up that final kill on the middle turret there, and Faculty have been waiting to do that for quite a while. And they've still got Gamers 2 locked in their jungle, locked in these tight spaces where Vengeful Maelstrom becomes more powerful, where Orianna Shockwave becomes incredibly powerful, and basically not where Gamers 2 want to be for a fight.
And Faculty's issue right now is that they haven't actually gone back to buy in a while. 2,000 gold on Orianna, more than enough gold on Lucian to pick up his Infinity Edge, and those are big, big spikes that they're going to need for this fight, so they have to completely layer every one of their ultimates here if they want to come out ahead of this fight, because Gamers 2, I guess they're on quite a lot of gold actually. Both of these teams have been in a stalemate for quite some time.
Faculty have started. The Dragon is down to well below half health. Now the Culling's coming out to try and scare off Jax, but Sona gets the Dragon. Either way, it's in Faculty, and again, Ku has to flash out of a pit to keep himself alive. Gamers 2, however, had such distance between themselves and Faculty that they have disengaged nicely, hidden in the bush. Can't find the re-engage, but they are still comfortably poking away. Sapling's for vision. Fall! No one hit that shockwave. It was way too soon while he was in midair, and Obvious is going to lose his life for it. Now we see Gamers 2 just turning and running away. They're happy with the one pickup, and because of where they forced in Faculty to stand, they got themselves a tower too.
Shockwave fooled all of us.
I
Thought it was good.
Hit 4 people. You landed in a perfect
Yeah,
place.
exactly. The landing point was great, but there's the miscommunication perhaps that Faculty cannot have in their game. And Obvious is a very vulnerable champion or player as he jumps forward there, landing in the middle of everybody, but the Shockwave not going off properly. That's not a good sign for Faculty, but we are still only at 3 kills to 1 in this game. This has been far more of a vision and objective-based game than most that we see.
And on top of that, while a vision and objective-based game easily went to Faculty in game number 1, Gamers 2 have done a much better job in this game, and as a result, they are not so far behind yet as they were last time around. They also, as we mentioned, have a far stronger late game than they had previously.
Yeah.
But as far as these two specific teams match up, they're actually very, very close. So every level advantage is going to be a big impact. It's 3 towers to 2 at the moment, though, still for Gamers 2. They are still ever so slightly now even further behind in gold because they are 3 towers to 3 now, as it is just over 1.2k for Faculty.
I feel like Faculty are going to struggle when this game goes late, though. They've got a team fighting composition. They want their ultimates all in one place. And that includes Maokai's. And Maokai isn't known as a late game champion either, so who do you put up against Jax? And there really is no one. There's nobody that can 1v1 a Jax in this lineup at all. So the later this game goes, Gamers 2 are going to be very happy with that.
And Faculty's option, once Jax starts split pushing, is flash crescendos for an engage. And if they can't get those engages, if they can't start those fights, Jax is just going to take down the base while all they can do is stand and watch. We do see, however, someone is up for almost everyone. Flash is down on the supports for both teams, and then jungles for Ku and top lane Jwaow. But the ultimates are all up, and Gamers 2 are toying with the idea of rushing down a Baron, but instead they're just hiding in these bushes and trying to bait Faculty in, but Faculty knows something is up and are just pushing the middle lane instead.
They do know something is up, but Faculty get deterred by a Howling Gale, and that is the end of, I was going to say the engage, but the push is still on.
They are doing what they can to poke Gamers 2 down. Of course, Ocelote's got great wave clear, but Orianna and Lucian are doing a pretty good job themselves. However, Faculty now realize that once all 5 members of Gamers 2 are here, they don't want to be pushing this. They don't want to stay in this kind of group. They're willing to back away and wait a bit longer.
And waiting longer is something that we know Gamers 2 are going to be very comfortable with. We were doing actually,
Faculty weren't quite willing to wait longer. They were trying to bait in Gamers 2 forward, but we're a little bit keen on the trigger.
This was an important point that you found out during our research. So we were looking at the Challenger Series playoff stats, and you came across the fact that Gamers 2's average game time currently, well, in the Challenger Series playoffs was 45 minutes and 42 seconds. So the longer this game goes, we know Gamers 2 are very used to being in the late game. RN Faculty, that is the problem.
The other question is, and I've got to admit, while it is a game length stat, it doesn't explain why they were.
Yeah.
So it could very well be that they were behind the whole way and got lucky wins. It could very well be that they just couldn't figure out how to end games, which is not going to be a good thing in your situations against an Orianna. You're just going to get stronger and stronger. So while 45 minutes is their CS playoffs average, they may have to change things up here. Now we see Jwaow and Maokai trading a little bit in the top lane as Jwowow's trying to take down a turret. But has it done enough to stall him out for Kha'Zix to get around behind him? The rockets come out, it forces the counter-strike, but it's enough for Jwaow to walk away.
And you can see how many people are going to be deterred here, or at least brought over to a lane for Jwowow's sake. 2 people were already committed to that, and he's not even as strong as he's going to be. Jwaow only has 2 items right now, but it's all he needs. We talked about it. Trinity Force, Blade of the Ruined King. From there, Jax can just get into the backline during a team fight and almost take out anybody he wants as long as he gets that counter-strike down. And Faculty really need to find a solution to a problem that looks a little unsolvable right now.
Gamers 2 realizing that Jax needs to be separate from them now to really control this, and he is staying up that top lane while everyone else shoves mid. But again, neither of these 2 teams want to get close while they do these pushing, while they do this wave clearing. There is more than a screen between them.
Yeah. And I mean, it comes from the fact that both actually have good wave clear for once. I mean, we're used to teams having lacking wave clear, the fact of the matter is, this is just two teams just trying to push into each other, and the different factor here is going to be the split push style. That is exactly what is going to turn this game.
And in doing so, getting that 4th turret for Gamers 2, Jwaow has evened out the gold completely. He then chooses to back off, and Ku's going to do so too, and they're going to buy a couple more items. Merc treads up onto Jax, making it even harder to stop, especially for Maokai. And Ku starts to get himself a little bit of tank. He has completed that Sightstone and Nails and Lizard a while ago. Now he's got his own Merc treads and a Giant's Belt to make sure they can't burst through him too quickly. Still yet to see a completed Frozen Heart though on Maokai, which as you mentioned is a big deal when fighting at Jax. So they need that finish as fast as possible, and they're hoping this Dragon might help them out. They're going to try and nuke it down, but Gamers 2 are coming in close. The Dragon does go off to Faculty, but now they're trying to focus onto Xaxus. But Jwaow actually trying to get onto Sedrion, forces him back, but the first casualty is looking to be Sona. She does have so many shields though, and the Xerath one finisher. KaSing manages to help drop down Jarvan. As they dash back forward again. Yuki's exposed, but Xerath is there to finish off Lucian, who opens himself right up, but the shockwave hits 3, and it does finish off Corki. Now they can get onto Jax, and now they've got the resets onto Obvious. They're leaping forward onto KaSing as well, but still a lot of damage from Xerath isn't enough to deter the double kill on Orianna, and it's 4 for 1 in favor of Faculty.
And they got the Dragon right at the beginning of it as well, and Faculty are going to turn all the way towards the Baron. They know they've got the time to do this, but in that fight, Sedrion actually stepped right into the middle of Gamers 2 after the Monsoon came out from KaSing, so they completely disengaged the fight, and Sedrion just steps in and gets killed for it. He'll be a little bit lucky by the fact that his team actually managed to clean it up. I think you can see him there lying on the ground for just a second. But this Baron is going to go out to end Faculty. No chance of stealing for Gamers 2. And Ku died again very early on in that engage. His first death of the game, though.
Baron for Faculty then. For a moment, I thought Ocelote was going to try and do something about it, using his long range, losing quite a bit of damage that he has. But he opted to stay clear of it and make sure he didn't throw his life away. He does have a perfect score at the moment, of course, 1-0-1. Going over, of course, now to his blue buff. He's going to get a bit of help from Jwaow to pick this up, I suspect. He obviously doesn't need it. He's probably going to have to base him in it too, as well, as it's been a while. But thanks to that Baron, there is now a 4,000 gold lead onto Faculty with the Dragon and those 4 kills in tow as well. Gamers 2, got to wait out this buff for 4 minutes.
They do, and the waiting game is going to be a tough one here, because I have a feeling Faculty again are going to use just their vision control as much as possible. Ruby Sightstone upgrade on Obvious, and that is a very early upgrade for a jungler to have, let alone anybody else on the map. And normally you'd want completed items at this point. All this is giving him is a little bit extra health and that extra ward, but that is what he's bought it for. He wants that extra ward on the map so they can creep their ward line forward. And in conjunction with the upgraded sweeper already from Xaxus, it's all about the vision game, and that is what's going to help shut Jwaow down a little bit in this game. They still have the problem that no one can 1v1 him.
So to say the problem with having that upgraded sweeper on Xaxus, Xaxus can't get anywhere near his team to help them with it. He's stuck trading with Jwaow. Does have that Frozen Heart completed though, so that's a big deal once they do start 5v5ing again. Ghostblade and Infinity Edge is up onto Lucian, and he's looking to go himself to Bloodthirster now for a bit more survivability against this Jax. But neither of those items are going to help him if he dives headlong into an entire Gamers 2 team second time around. Have to watch his positioning this time over. But once again, even with the Baron buff, Faculty aren't willing to get very close. But they are rotating down now to behind Jax. Kha'Zix is going to get there first. Does have the slow. Careful for the counter-strike though. Leaps in onto Jwaow for even more of a slow, but now SozPurefect is coming. They're going to dash forward with more movement speed, but they don't want to go under the turret. Burned a fair few things, especially the Kha'Zix ultimate, but don't grab the kill. And, wow, the culling gets cancelled out there too. Can they get something for it?
Yeah, they're going to push the turret in, but Sedrion takes far more tower shots than he actually wanted to there. And by this time, Jwaow is going to be able to regroup with the team before they actually start this push. So, Faculty maybe need to reconsider this push. Janna is going to shield the turret out. It's going to deter too much of the damage. And Jwaow is going to be with them. So, a bit of a stalemate of a game right now. This is a very technical back and forth game on this point. It's all about the numbers.
There is also a massive wave of creeps in that top lane that someone wanted to go deal with, and Maokai is that man. He has strolled all the way down there. He's going to pick up a nice big chunk of gold again to help be even tankier, to help be an even bigger front line for Faculty. Stop Gamers 2 getting anywhere near the nice squishy targets at the back. Now, Jwaow, though, is looking for yet another opening to go and to split away from the rest of his team. At the moment, that's a little bit of Baron control, but of course that's not up for quite a while yet. Nothing for him to do around there. But a minute and a half until the next dragon comes up. We already saw a bit of a skirmish at the last one that resulted in the first Baron of the game. Not sure we'll see it again, though. Gamers 2, if they're going to have to do that, have to play it a lot smarter. Make sure they don't go and lose another 4 members.
And that is the question. Are they going to play it a lot smarter? Because it didn't work out for them last time. Doing the same thing won't work out again. So, how do they establish that vision control when there is so much vision in their lower side jungle? And actually, they've done a fairly good job maintaining the vision they have for Gamers 2. Is they have all of the Baron area awarded and some of mid lane, but not a lot around Dragon yet, so they need to kind of get that going. But that's one of the problems we know that KaSing can end up suffering from, is walking out on his own. We saw that in the last series, and he is a little bit split from the pack right now, but of course he knows where the rest of N faculty are. They're well planted in the jungle right now.
Again, Xaxus has had to be sent away and to now deal with Jwaow. Do get a bit of poke onto KaSing here from Orianna. Half of his health knocked down, even with his shield there in tow. Now, to counter the Jack split push, we see Kha'Zix in the bottom lane, starting a push down there. So those minions are going to help out N faculty. And they do, again, rotate back towards the middle lane once more. While Jwaow can straight up kill Xaxus if he's allowed to fight him 1v1, he knows it's not really going to happen. Xaxus will just turn and walk away from him for most of it, in which case faculty could end up baiting him into something more dangerous. So he is still keeping his distance from Xaxus. In doing so, it doesn't give the rest of his team much of an opening and allows faculty to look for this rushed down dragon. They're going to leave Obvious alone on it though, because they can start to see Gamers 2 all rotate up there through their jungle. They have now lost vision of them though, and they've only got 2 members back here. The dragon will fall, but the fast recalls are coming out now from faculty. What do they do about Gamers 2? Well, they don't have to do a whole lot, because Gamers 2 decide to back away.
Gamers 2 going to back away because Xaxus cleared the minion wave far too quickly, and Gamers 2 just weren't quick enough into that top lane. Diving a Maokai, honestly, though, under an inhibitor turret is a very suicidal tactic. That
when
screams
it's 5v1,
desperation.
I think they could pull it off.
Oh, yeah, they can. Don't get me wrong, but with no minion wave, you may get the kill on Xaxus, but you aren't getting the turret from that. There's far too much else going on there, and that would, you know, N faculty would have been back way before. So Gamers 2 don't pull a stupid move, but they didn't exactly get anything from it either.
It was clearly in their minds for a moment, and that is going to be a little bit worrying.
But what wasn't on their minds, or at least in their inventories, was the ability to secure Baron a minute before it spawns. They know the timing of it, because Ocelote was moved. Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
Oh, someone's a little bit nervous. A little bit nervous in this game.
He doesn't have any wards. That was purely, he
went to sweep.
Did he sweep?
Well, he swept right after it, but unless it's on a different key, I would be surprised. Yeah, maybe he tried to use Dissonance and just fat-fingered the 2 as well. Well, actually, we laugh about that. It's a massive deal for this fight, because SozPurefect, if he gets caught out now in this fight...
Thankfully for him, Gamers 2 didn't see it.
Yes, that is part of it.
They're not going to notice and not going to focus him for it, but it could still come back to bite him.
It's always a treacherous minute after you miss Zhonya's. At least it is a fairly short cooldown, though, so he's half the way back.
Faculty have used this, though, to grab a lot of control around the Baron area. Now they're hiding in this bush. They do leap out onto Q, but he was smart enough to check it with his flag first. They can't catch him too out of position. Did blow a Valkyrie on Corki, though, so it's a little bit of defense for him for a couple of seconds. But they've got control of the area, and they're now looking for that pick, looking for some way to get Gamers 2 out of position. And this time, thankfully for faculty, Jwaow is close. Interesting EQ combo from Jarvan.
Q's getting very antsy in this game. He just wants to engage, but the problem is he needs to just give
Kha'Zix is going in, and wow, Kha'Zix is down. They do get the shockwave onto only Jwaow, though, but they're taking a lot of damage just for one target. And now Jarvan's coming behind. It's a double kill for Xaxus, who is going to go huge if they're not careful. Xaxus has to flash away towards the mid lane, and everyone on Gamers 2 is following him. Flash stun from Ocelote. Jax will leap in for the triple kill. Only Sona and Orianna left alive for N faculty, and this, with a Jax, a Corki left alive, and Jarvan's buff, could be all this Gamers 2 need to end the game.
This could be game right here. Jwaow is so strong at this point in the game. We are into Jax time right now, nearly 40 minutes, and they engaged on a single... let me take that right back, because I am so flustered by that engage out of obvious. He jumps in onto 3 people on his own, expecting the shockwaves to go off, and it doesn't. That is really just not what Faculty need in this game right now, because they cannot give free kills to Jwaow like that. And Jwaow will clean up at the tail end of every fight, and that is really just completely dropped everything from Faculty's lead.
So, Faculty was saved by a slight lack of minions on Gamers 2 side, and they also split up a little bit to make sure they secured the bottom turret as well as the middle turret. So they grabbed 2 tier 2 turret towers, and then they grabbed the Baron. They're still down by about 1,000 gold, but for the next 4 minutes, that buff is too much for Faculty to ignore. SozPurefect hasn't got full mana up because he's having to defend that mid lane with Sona's help on their own, but now look at Jwaow. He's going to grab himself a Ranju in soon. He's got that Banshee up. And that is a very, very tough Jax to kill off. You saw how much Faculty burned in him last time around and still couldn't do it.
And that Banshees makes him even more trouble right now, because the only person they can put in lane with him is Maokai. And if your initial ability is doing nothing to Jwaow, you essentially go in aggressively, and he just hits you, stuns you, and just continues to auto-attack you until you have to back away, because he's got enough magic resistant health to survive through everything that Xaxus wants to throw at him.
Heading down to the bottom lane to split now. Obviously drawing everyone down there and away from him, because it is quite a distance down there. And off you see Xaxus through the jungle, making his trip to try and meet him. And actually changes his mind. They're looking to perhaps grab a group pick here in middle before Jwaow gets to a dangerous position. But Gamers 2 are still so far back down the lane. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, Gamers 2 need to slowly advance through their lane and drop the wards to allow Jwaow the room to push bottom. If Gamers 2 really wanted to make this as difficult as possible for Faculty, they'd push top lane with lower jungle warded. From there, Jwaow has a completely safe path, and you can see they are clearing out for this as well. So Jwaow is going to push bottom lane. Gamers 2 should push top. They'll probably push mid looking at it, but Gamers 2 have such a dominating control of this game due to their comp right now.
And that Baron buff.
Yes.
Yeah, as I mentioned. So, the Faculty squad are just staying on their steps waiting, but right now, Gamers 2 are just happy to let their own Baron buff time out. It's halfway through, 2 minutes left on it, and they don't seem to want to come close to the stairs. Jwaow is confident to do so, but he is running low on minions because Xaxus can wave clear that very, very quickly. We'll pop that Banshees, and now SozPurefect's coming down here. They're actually going to go out, get the snare onto Jwaow, pulls him back in there for the stun, and it hits SozPurefect as well. And look at how little damage they did to Jwaow despite all of that.
And he's just going to regen that up from Baron. He'll drop back down into the bottom lane fairly shortly, and it's round 2. So you can see that Faculty have to commit 2, nearly 3 people to Jwaow, and the next time that happens, Gamers 2 will push from it.
Got a cannon creep, but it can't quite land too much onto the turret. One shot from Yuki does do a big burst of damage, especially with the Janna shield and the Sheen proc, but it is every little helps right now. There's Jwaow heading now back down towards the bottom, so Xaxus will have to go and meet him shortly. And the next wave is coming up the middle lane. Saving grace for Faculty, though, is it won't have a cannon minion at this time around. It just survived one of those waves.
Another slight saving grace is the fact that Gamers 2 didn't actually push top lane at the same time. So if they
are doing it.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. The minions are going to do it eventually, but Gamers 2 didn't set that up so that all 3 lanes are being pressured, so they're not actually exerting 3 full lanes of pressure here. So it's giving Faculty the slightest bit easier a time right now.
So Baron buff has about 20 seconds left on it. It's now no minions for Jwaow, but he does leap to Ku to get to safety. But the bottom turret is taking about as much damage as the middle one now. And here comes that wave in the top lane as well, as you mentioned. Yuki does half the health in the middle. Sorry, Gamers 2 are ever so close to edging their way in.
But their Baron buff is about to run out. And that is the point at which they can't stand here anymore. They have to back away once Baron is down, so they either engage now. Oh,
wow, Ku takes a massive burst of damage, and now the Baron buff goes, and they definitely can't hang around for him. But Jwaow is still doing everything he can onto Xaxus in the bottom lane to make sure he is just as low as Ku is. But he's run out of minions again. He's tanked up a few tower shots for himself. The rest of Gamers 2, now you can see how far back down the mid lane they are again now. You see the tornado coming up to try and slow the chase. It does just enough.
The other option that Faculty have in their playbook is play your composition. do not play Jwow's game of 1v1ing in a lane. Go 5 versus 4, force Jwaow to teleport in, he can't do any more damage, or he has to push solo. And at that point, you win the 5v4 fight, you stop Jwaow, and then proceed with the game from there. That's a very risky play because you're essentially saying, can we fight the fight, kill everybody, and back to stop Jwaow before he's able to take the entire base? But it is an option.
The Dragon is another option too, as it is just up here. And you see Gamers2 heading in that direction to grab themselves another 1,000 free gold and to take the lead back finally, because they have been even for quite some time. And then, in a minute 50, the big worm comes back up. Baron is about to spawn. We should see both teams looking for it again. This time with the Zhonya's properly on Orianna as well. We're going to get some ward control drop down for Faculty. Sona leading the way with a couple in her inventory. And that's Stone as well. Gamers2 are actually nowhere nearby to try and plant their own or contest this. So Faculty, while they don't know it yet, have complete control over it. Looking for that movement speed boost into the mid lane where they could get behind Gamers2 here. Gamers2 don't have a rough idea where Faculty even are. And Faculty are waiting for a tad longer than they should be, perhaps, into this bush. Oh, it might be paying off. Ocelote is coming back in this rough direction. He's waiting for support from the team, though. And now, in fact, he decided they've waited too long.
They've waited a long time. The thing that allowed them to do that was the big wave in the bottom lane. Meant that Jwaow wasn't going to solo push that. It would take him far too long to clear that. At this point in the game, and Faculty doing that is actually fairly risky right now, because the next pick is going to determine the game. As long as it's not a 5-for-5 complete double ace, whoever stays alive should be able to do a lot of critical damage, and from there,
it's at least an inhib for either squad,
exactly. Yeah. At least an inhib on the next fight or next pick. But
Ocelote was a little bit closer than I think you might have liked. Actually uses his summon to heal to make sure they can't get over that Wraith Wall to him. Corki also has to back on away. The Baron's up in 17 seconds now. We do start seeing Faculty taking out a couple of the wards that were placed down by Gamers2.
You saw the pings though out of Gamers2. They said mid lane. Yeah, they want to risk the Baron getting taken and force Faculty to come back through their own jungle, because it was warded out here. This could be very dangerous, but Jwaow is not with the rest of Gamers2 right now. He does have teleport available.
However, Faculty don't know this, and they are being zoned away from this middle lane by the members of Gamers2 that are there. Here's the teleport for Jwaow now to make that minion invulnerable, and they're going to get this turret pretty easily. That one will drop before Faculty get back to the lane. Now we see a massive twisted advance onto Ocelote, goes so deep, but Jwaow gets straight in onto SozPurefect, doing a massive amount of damage through the exhaust. Ocelote fires his ultimate out, and he will be coup with a knock-up onto Sona. Still no casualties, but finally Sona drops down. Still waiting to see a shockwave, though. Both teams are backing up into their positions as Xaxus is at the front, but Sedrion gets terribly close to Gamers2. Still just the one casualty onto Faculty for now. They need to start healing up Xaxus. He does have home guards, but Gamers2 head straight to Baron.
Shockwave just did not hit the mark during that fight, and then Faculty just don't have enough damage to deal with anything. They're forced to regen now on the Fountain. They lost an inhibitor turret as well, so this becomes a fairly simple game for Gamers2 now, because they push the inhib in the mid lane and Jwaow pushes the bot. So Gamers2, we talked all the way back at the beginning of this game, nearly 50 minutes ago. What was their play that has to get them back on track to getting to the final four here in the LCS qualifiers? And we said, was it going to be Jwaow on his champion, on his Jax, that we haven't seen in a long, long time, and he's 6-2-2. This looks like it was what Gamers2 really needed to claw their way back in this series.
They've been kiting very, very well for the last 25 minutes from the feel of things. Just making sure that Jwaow can farm and stay alive and farm and stay alive. And then when they do force a fight, when they are caught out and they have to go through, it's still only Jwaow that's even close to people. And all he has to do is clean up the low health targets from Ocelote's long range poke. But Faculty aren't down and out yet. They're only down by 5,000 gold. They do have to fend off against another Baron buff, and they are once again hiding in bushes, looking for that opening, looking for the gamers to stray to walk into them. You mentioned before how it's normally KaSing that gets a bit risque, roams around warding on his own to get caught, but not this time around. He is far away from where in faculty are because the rest of his team are on the fountains and cleaning the jungle. No opening from faculty yet. Not really the best of bushes to do this in.
No, it's not the best bush really at all, especially when Gamers 2 have so much of the top jungle warded that they're basically thinking to themselves, well, they're somewhere in the lower jungle. So, I mean, if they get caught out by this, also Lucian's about to show himself, so this is
Lucian showed himself mid as well. He's been doing that for the whole time, trying to give Gamers 2 a little bit of info, but they're not falling for it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the other side of that is that's a lot of damage that's not missing, that's not there for if you actually get a pick at that point. 4 versus 1, I think they should be able to pick anybody off straight away, but you can see in Faculty's decision-making right here, and Gamers 2 just are not pushing them. Gamers 2 have the Baron now and have had it for about nearly 2 minutes at least, maybe a little bit longer. And they haven't really done anything with it.
To be honest, Gamers 2 started playing fairly aggressive after that Baron. They came out and they shot. But the longer it took without them seeing in faculty, the further back in their own jungle they played. They were getting a little bit worried, having not seen them for quite a while. But didn't have anything really to be worried of.
I mean, this is their time. This is where their composition is almost unmanageable. Because who can fight this, you know, this late into the game? We know it's that they like the long games. They have that average game time of 45-42 from the Challenger playoffs. But this time they've even got Jax for Jwaow. This is late game. This is right where Gamers 2 need to take advantage of their composition. And can Gamers 2 push in for this inhibitor? And is Jwaow going to be able to pick off more kills here?
Picks off the inhibitor with ease, doesn't need the kills, and the rest of the team back away now. They know they have super creeps there to help them out in the middle lane. They've got a red buff that they can steal away. They may also do the dragon, but to be honest, I think that would be a bit of a waste of this buff if they go down to the dragon. They should grab the minions and come straight to the bottom lane.
Yes, that is what they're going to do. But and that mid lane is now going to push in. So Jwaow can swap over to another lane. They have pressure in the middle lane. And they can push bottom or top, whichever one Jwaow isn't in at the same time. So, Gamers 2. I mean, how do you deal with a Jax that's ahead and has a Guardian Angel? He's difficult enough to kill once, but now you got to kill him twice. It's an almost impossible task.
Banshees have all been popped in for Gamers 2, and their Baron buffs are gone. Still only 5 kills to 8 in this game. The gold lead is now 6,000 for Gamers 2. And while we talked about their poor objective control before, they now have 7 towers to 3, sorry. They have had more dragons this game. They have many more Barons. But they do lose a turret to minions in that top lane.
I feel like this is just Gamers 2 not setting up the map for themselves properly. I mean, it's just general housekeeping that if you're going to push, make sure all of your lanes are pushing. Set up a slow push wave in the top lane, anything. Like, just make sure that end faculty can't basically say, okay, well, they're all in the bottom lane because we can just defend mid and top's pushing in towards them anyway. And that's what Jwaow is going to go and do now. But it's far too late. Their Baron has expired already. So Gamers 2 just need to maybe think ahead a little bit rather than playing in the moment they're in. They need to think, our comp is great right now and is going to be better in 5 minutes. So let's set everything up for ourselves.
They're sitting in the Fnatic bush, waiting for someone to stray too far out.
Why teleport to this bush as well?
They're going to try and rush down this tower.
Yeah, okay,
got no
now
minions.
I see it. Now I see it with Enfact pushing mid lane, but that's a lot used and they've been deterred.
Massive, massive waste of teleport from Gamers 2. Yes, they're in the lead right now. Yes, their average game time from playoffs was past this point. But that, to me, they're still out of ideas on how to win this game.
Yeah, it really seems like they're struggling to come to terms with the fact they're ahead with a later game composition and are just trying anything they can to win. You do not see teams that are ahead sitting all in one bush because you don't need to. I mean, it's not the biggest of leads. Let's put that in perspective. It's only about a 5,000 gold lead, which this late into the game is not game ending. But when the composition you're running has its spike right now in this game.
And you've taken down an inhib to help put pressure up. Why is Jax stop split pushing?
That is a great question, and I don't know why. I wish I had an answer for you.
They got a tower, and they got an inhib, and they got all these Barons because Jwaow was split pushing the side lanes while they pressured somewhere else. The minute they get an inhib, they decide, well, that strategy worked. let's stop split pushing now.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a Guardian Angel, which we already talked about. Difficult enough to kill him twice. So you draw more people over there. The rest of your team are far more than confident to actually fight the rest of the fight. I mean, sure, Corki, unless you land all the poke up front, probably doesn't have as much damage as Lucian in this, but we've seen Gamers 2 take the good fights. We've seen them do it.
They might be forced into one here, and Faculty coming straight up mid lane now as all 5 members of Gamers 2 are also here to meet them. Kha'Zix in the Wraith camp, but does get now spotted out, and then Faculty are turning and running because Jwaow is running straight at them. They've also split slightly to get control over the Baron pit because it comes up in 1 second. There it is. And now, Gamers 2 have to clear these wards out and keep Faculty at bay. This fight could still go either way if someone engages the Baron, and as you mentioned before, could decide the match.
Not a lot has happened in the last 6 minutes, 7 minutes.
30 minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes. But I was meaning since the last Baron. Sorry, my maths is slightly off on that one. But that is just saying that Gamers 2, although they've had all the position in the world to do it, have not been able to pin down Faculty's vision control because Faculty are just sitting back for the right fight. And this is what you'll see out of teams that are very comfortable playing this team fight kind of composition here, where you're just relying on everything lining up.
Their inhib is also back up too for Faculty now, so they've lost that super creep. But oh, Sedrion was way too far out. Gets stunned up by Jwaow. Yes, he's got a GA, but he's doing as much damage as he can. Has to flash back to his team. Still trying to stay alive. Mountain's there to heal him. He does get that on. And finally, they pop him into his Guardian Angel, but obviously took so much damage as well. Now Kha'Zix has to back on up, and Jwaow is still doing so much while being so tanky. Xaxus is at the front, but the shockwave misses everyone. And now they're trying to chase them in. Gamers 2 are in full chase mode. They get another stun onto Sedrion, and even with the Mikhails, he's so incredibly low, but there's still so many shields and heals. The rockets are coming out from Corki, but they can't kill anyone, and everybody survives the fight. But Gamers 2 are still in the better place to secure another Baron.
They are pretty low though, so they just have to juggle this around a bit. But that fight, Sedrion somehow gets away with his life. The heals just saving him completely in that setup, and yes, his Guardian Angel got popped, but overall, the Baron goes to Gamers 2, and
they can't kill this Jax. And Faculty just can't do anything about him. His GA is still up, and he was one of the highest health members of Gamers 2 even at the end of that fight.
I mean, the shockwave just didn't land, and that's the second one from SozPurefect, or third actually in this game that really just hasn't hit the mark. The one earlier we saw with Obvious in the middle lane when it was early. SozPurefect needs to find his center here on Orianna. He's 2-0-2, which is great. Don't get me wrong, stats don't lie on that one, but it's the untold story of these team fights that they could be going so much better for Faculty.
We do see pings on to the mid inhibitor though from Gamers 2. They've got this Baron, they know they can barge their way in there, and of course there's no turret, so they're looking for that once again. Can they get it, or will Faculty force a fight out of them? Are they okay to do it even with this Baron buff? Jwaow leaps forward, and they back away, which is a good thing. They shouldn't be okay to do it even against this Baron buff. Do put as much poke down as they can. They have stopped the inhib punishment about half health, but Yuki goes back onto it again, and the inhibitor will fall down no matter what from Faculty try.
And we return to this situation that we've been in for the last 10 or so minutes. And this time, Gamers 2, send Jwaow to the bottom lane. Anything. Just split your team up. Don't engage needlessly, and just use this inhib being down.
They are not listening, Stress. They are still keeping Jwaow up top. Now he decides to wander off a little bit. We'll see where he goes. He could just push this mid lane and then come and rejoin them again. Wouldn't be unheard of after the last couple of moments. But we do see the minion wave comes in. Xaxus and friends do what they can to defend the wave, but take a lot of poke for it. Now Jwaow has helped those super creeps up towards the middle lane, giving Q a bit of a chance to face tank the turret down, and they're going to do a lot of damage.
Jax has pushed in, though. And honestly, this is what I'm expecting from Jwaow. This is his most played champion in Season 3. He has hundreds of games on Jax. He has to pick his timing right as he's in the back line.
He is in behind the turret will fall, and he's looking now onto Xaxus, but takes a lot of punishment. The shockwave does hit Yuki this time, and they're going to try and shoot down Corki, but they can't finish him off. Now Ku goes deep, but Ocelote's ult's going to come down and hit a lot of damage, but won't finish anyone off. Just the one kill for an Faculty, and that's enough to scare Gamers2 home.
Jax still has his Guardian Angel and his full health. You're in the point of the game where so many ultimates just got used during that fight. The only one you have to worry about is the crescendo from Mountain, and even then you have a Guardian Angel. They could have potentially stayed for that fight because Monsoon had been used to heal the rest of the team up, and they still had Baron buff. But Jwaow, perhaps it's been too long a time since he's had a late game Jax game in the competitive scene. I wonder whether this is his decision making or the team's saying we need you with us.
Teams.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. I feel like Jwaow is far comfortable enough on Jax to split push in the late game. He's done it hundreds of times.
Faculty actually looking to use this opening and grab some damage onto this mid-tier 2 tower. They push the super creeps all the way back up. But all 4 members of Gamers2, sorry, because Jarvan's still dead, are here to try and defend it. And pushing against super creeps is very, very tough, let alone with a 4-man defense waiting for you. And they do have to turn and back away. Dragon is up, but nobody seems to care, and rightfully so. It doesn't mean a whole lot at this point in the game these days. And the Baron is still about 4 minutes away, as it is just 3 minutes away, just worn off of Gamers2. We did see Xerath actually ult there towards the bottom lane to, well, maybe the blue buff, not sure where else was firing that, to try and get themselves a bit of control over that bottom half of the map.
I know what's going on in this game, Panky.
Oh, please tell me.
I figured
it
out. I know exactly what it is.
Are we being trolled? Is that what it is?
No. Gamers2 looked at their stats from last week and said, we did not get enough Barons in our series last week. Let's take the game past 60 minutes, get every Baron we can, and make sure no one can ever say that Gamers2 don't take Baron in a game.
Oh, dear God, I hope not.
Hey, we got a great game 3 on the way if that's the case, if this one goes to 3.
If this doesn't go to a game 3 right now, Gamers2, I don't know what they're doing,
that's
but
what I'm
it's
saying.
Not going to be pretty in that house if this doesn't go to game 3. And they have got a second exposed inhibitor now, and they're finally looking like they're ready to take it down.
And we're right here watching this game as it happens with you guys as well. So we're anticipating Gamers2 taking this one at this point, but NFAC's comp is very good. If they catch 2, 3, 4 people in a shockwave, they will succeed in a fight. But they have to get that.
Yeah, SozPurefect's not been on the ball with it recently. Jwaow taking a lot of poke while he's taking that inhibitor down, and to be honest, didn't do as much damage. Sedrion actually going very aggressive onto Ku and taking a lot of damage for it. Definitely not worth with that. And now Gamers2 coming back in for another push while Sedrion is trying to heal up. But again, they can't quite do any damage to the inhibitor itself. The inhibitor in the mid lane has spawned now, so that means the super creeps have stopped pressuring there, and once again, Jwaow is not split pushing.
No, he is not. He's also not having a lot of time to duel anyone either.
No, we do see Ku actually taking a lot of damage from Xaxus. Knock up onto Obvious, who's taking a massive burst. Jwaow goes deep, but had to turn and run as well. Both members of either team turn to face away. Jwaow there, flash forward onto Ocelote actually is Xaxus' focus. They're trying to do a damage, but the Mikhail gets him out. Now Xaxus is turning and running, but Ku is deep within the enemy team. They're going to try and focus him, but he flashes out as well. Still so many summoners and ultimates left for everyone, and Xaxus gets stunned up by Ocelote as they're trying to chase.
Not the right communication there between Gamers2. Jwaow goes into the backline, looks to, duel anybody that's there, but the rest of the team just aren't reacting. They're not playing Jwow's game, and that is what they need to do, because again, the Baron is coming up. Yes, they're likely to take it at this point. They aren't going to have backed and been healthy, but
both teams are going to be healthy. There's no inhibs down. Xaxus is going to have pushed the bottom lane and set up a slow push for Faculty. We could see the game-winning fight in the next minute.
Very possible, but we know that a lot of the calls come from Ku and Ocelote in Gamers2. This late into the game, they need to give Jwaow the freedom to make his own calls. He is the player that they have built this game around, and they're not committing to his playstyle when they really need to.
Ocelote pushes ult out towards SozPurefect, doing as much damage as he can, but it's not quite enough. All 3 charges used and hit, but don't really do much. Sedrion takes another burst from Ocelote, and the faculty are very split right now. Yuki's doing a lot of damage to Obvious, but can't chase him down for the kill without exposing himself. Obvious though needs to get his health back here, or the next fight will not go well for Faculty at all. Complete Baron control then for Gamers 2. Obvious does have himself a Guardian Angel, but Ku is inside the Baron pit. They have started it, they're trying to nuke it down. Clairvoyance goes out, they can see it's down to 2/3 health, but here comes Faculty. They've pulled them off the Baron. Now's the time to fight when they have a debuff, and actually Jwaow still doing the Baron. It's down to about half health, doing a lot of damage, but Xaxus is in front, making sure they have vision and being a nuisance. Now they have Yuki, Jwaow. Ku on no health has to back out, and KaSing without that tornado was in a horrible, horrible position, as the culling will do what damage it can. Baron has regen health all the way back up, and Ku has to recall out of here.
Who is calling the shots for Gamers 2 right now? Because their game plan is simple. Push inhibitors, get Baron, push for the win. That is how you win this game from this situation with Jwaow, and you have 2 inhibitors exposed, and they have been for the last 20 minutes of the game. It's a very simple process that Gamers 2 just haven't committed to.
Teleport coming in from Jwaow around behind them, and Faculty are completely surrounded. Jwaow used that home guard to dance around, but they've got so much damage now and onto Obvious. They're trying to nuke the Baron down. Everyone's in the pit, but the shockwave only hits 2, doing so much damage, and Gamers 2 get the Baron. Double Guardian Angels are going off in the pit. Jarvan will fall for real. Orianna also follows, and Faculty have flashed Sedrion over the pit. Jwaow is finally down, but Yuki does so much damage, and Xaxus is caught out. Sona and Sedrion are on the wrong side of the map, and I've only got one option. Try and rush the Gamers 2 base, or recall. They're going to recall and try and defend these inhibs.
I think they can even defend this, potentially. Sedrion's culling is going to be up very soon, and there is no chance that Gamers 2 really want to push in anywhere past just the inhibitors. And then Faculty get away with that, and even though Gamers 2 got the Baron, they can't end the game. Jwaow fell in that engage.
Sedrion sold his boots and grabbed a Zephyr, so no home guard, but he's now coming back on out of here with the culling to try and defend the second inhib, but it's not going to be enough. So 2 inhibs will be down for Gamers 2.
Are they going to push?
As you mentioned.
No, Sedrion's too low. They have to back away here and buy him a lot of
full
time.
Poke from Ocelote there. He has to get on the fountain and heal, and as I said, no home guards. Nexus turret number 1 for Yuki. It could be. He's doing a lot of damage and has those Sheen pokes. Stun comes out from Ocelote but won't land. Sedrion's still taking more poke. They've got to get through these minions because the Nexus turret is going to fall. Now it's just Yuki and Ocelote with KaSing in support to try and nuke down the Nexus. He Valkyries over the top of him. Janna out to push them off again, but Yuki has no mana. They're going to do everything they can, but Gamers 2 take game number 2 in this best of 3 series, even it out, and we're going to a 3rd.
Oh man, that was a messy game.
It was a slow
It was a slow, messy game towards the end of that one. And I mean, Gamers 2 stuck with it, and Faculty stuck with it, and I think everybody going into game number 3 is going to be a little bit more exhausted, but Gamers 2 finally whittled down Faculty in that game.
They played the start of that game far better. They were far better with their decision-making and controls earlier on, but they still couldn't quite figure out how to end the game with some slightly different picks from Faculty with a better engage. That could really hurt Gamers 2 if it comes to it in the next game. However, that next game is on the other side of a quick 3-minute break. So we will see you guys